Hey, so what's up folks, are you guys ready to dive into some relationship dramas? Let me know what you think about these stories, and without further ado let's dive into the world of r/relationships. 60F, just don't want my daughters, 30F, partner, 38M, at Christmas this year. 60F, have two kids, who each have partners. My son, 28M, is married to my DIL, 26F, and my daughter, 30F, has a partner, 38M, who I'll refer to my SIL to make things simpler. Son and DIL have been together for 6 years, daughter and SIL have been on and off for about 3 years. Last year, daughter asked if SIL could stay over for the holidays, about a week. I wasn't a fan of the idea, they'd just been off for several months and had only just gotten back together. I'd never met him before, and personally I just don't approve of him, but it seemed unfair for me to say no when DIL stays over almost every year. So I said yes. What a mess that turned out to be. First, I ended up paying for his plane tickets round trip because he was broke. His tickets cost $250, so I personally thought this reflected poorly on a 37-year-old guy. When the kids are home, my husband and I treat them to all meals and encourage them to eat out. We've never had to place limitations on them before because they've always been respectful. We have one really nice meal out. They cook most meals at home, they eat a lot of fast casual, so no more than $15/meal. Well, daughter and SIL ended up balling out on our dime. They had multiple $100+ meals, would go to lunch and sample the entire menu, bring home multiple servings of leftovers and never eat them, order a 3-course dinner every night, skip meals at home to try new restaurants, etc. A few days in we pulled daughter aside to tell her this wasn't okay, and she said if we stopped them now, we would come across as rude hosts. Finally, SIL broke a house rule that we'd told them about before and smoked weed in the house. We have this rule in place because DIL is extremely sensitive to and hates the smell of weed. Luckily we live in a warm, weed-friendly state, so all he had to do was step outside and smoke in our backyard. What's more, he lied to us about it and we only found out when our son told us that DIL could smell them smoking weed in the adjacent room. When we confronted him, he claimed that he self-medicates for PTSD. We were ecstatic when he finally left. I haven't seen him since. My daughter wants to bring him home for the holidays again this year. I said no, and basically repeated the paragraph above as the reason why. I never got any sort of apology or even gratitude for us hosting him. He's just as broke as he was last year, so I would be bankrolling another fun vacation for this almost 40-year-old man. She said she wouldn't come home either, my husband and I said that was fine. Now she claims we are classist because we strongly prefer our DIL, who happens to be highly educated and financially independent, over SIL, who didn't finish high school and doesn't have stable employment. It's true that we prefer DIL, but not for these reasons, although stable employment would be nice. I just feel like I gave him a chance and he blew it. We could invite him back with more rules in place, but I honestly have no desire to ever see him again. I am aware that I could be burning a bridge with my daughter, but I want to get the message across that we don't approve of him and honestly think he's sort of a grifter, and that actions have consequences. Is there a better way to go about this? What on earth happened here? In my very brief relationship, was I totally manipulated or was it my fault? I'm trying to make sense of something that happened recently. It was a fairly traumatic experience for me, and I feel totally taken for a fool. The only way I can start to move on is by trying to process and intellectually understand. This might be of interest to those with a psychology background. I am a 40F looking for love. I do have abusive relationships in my past and also diagnosed ASD, so pretty vulnerable. I know what I want in a partner. Age doesn't really matter to me as I care more about the qualities that someone brings and the connection that we have in person. I find that I tend to be drawn to younger men as they show more interest in me than men of my age. I also tend to like the way they are more open-minded and tend to have less baggage, although I'm realizing this may not actually be true in many ways. I recently met a 24M in the military. After some talking, we met and frankly I was heavily pressured into sex, but that's a different post. I now look back after what's happened and I'm devastated. I feel this person manipulated, lied, and deceived to get what he wanted. These are some of the things that I am struggling to make sense of, so any insight is appreciated. I always make sure when I start talking to someone that I am clear about what I want. No complicated casual situationships. I check that there are no fundamental barriers before even starting to talk as a way of trying to protect myself. On this occasion I raised the age gap as it is quite large. This person assured me that the age was no barrier at all and that they were totally on the same page as me regarding the ONS/casual relationship front. He claimed to have been in 2 long-term relationships and had a large number of ONS, which is why he found ONS unsatisfactory. He was clear that he was looking for something serious even though he said he wasn't anticipating being in the area all that long due to being in the military. He also confused me as he hinted at being emotionally unavailable in spite of being absolutely sure he wanted a serious and long-term relationship. After our first encounter, he said the age was suddenly an issue. Was this all an elaborate lie just to gain my confidence and get sex? He was quite unusual because he said while we were even just talking, he didn't want me talking to other men or meeting up with them. He said he would do the same as he was no cheater. I found this unusual, because although I personally prefer dealing with one person at a time, I appreciate it doesn't seem to be the usual approach these days. I liked that he was clear he felt the same. I later found out he was at least talking to others, and he treated them very differently. He changed the goalposts after our first encounter. He brought up a man that I had mentioned previously, and seemed to be quite jealous. I said I hadn't met the man and had no intention of doing so. I think he used this as an excuse as he said he wouldn't now feel bad if he did start talking to someone else and wanting a serious relationship with them soon, but seeing me in the meantime. I'm quite sure he had a person in mind. I spoke to the girl, who is close in age to him, and she said she found him completely different to what I had described, which totally shook me. He kept referring to being a psychological problem for me, that he had a dark heart and dark fantasies, and that is why people like him should be sent to war. It did strike me as strange, but I just thought it was awkward humor. I'm also a philosophy teacher, and he relished denouncing everything I said even though he said he wanted to learn. He belittled one of my interests. He was very ashamed of his mommy fantasy and wouldn't speak it out loud. He said he wasn't like other men in the military as he didn't drink, because of how it had affected his family when he was young. He spoke affectionately about his mother and half-sister, but said his dad left and his mother's other marriage also failed. I feel like he targeted me to fulfill his mother fantasy. I've also read about the Madonna W****** complex and wonder if he selected me as the W***** and this other girl as the Madonna. This man really hurt me on a number of levels. I can't go into what else he did, and I just feel completely blindsided. Maybe I was naive, but I'm now left reeling. Hurt that this is a person who wanted something long-term and serious and treated me abominably whilst treating others well. It eats me up, because I feel I am the crazy one. It's only me he's treated bad. I minimize and blame myself, because there must be something wrong with me if he did this, and he was linking arms and cuddling sweetly with other girls. I'm in total denial and struggling with having feelings for this person, which I know I shouldn't have. I hate thinking of him with someone else and treating them better. I'm a mess and just need to understand what went on here. Stepdad 69M is becoming increasingly erratic and aggressive. I, 48F, recently remarried and moved back to my hometown. I now live about 10 minutes away from my mom, 69F, and stepdad, 69M. In the time since I've been back, I've noticed SD's behavior has becoming increasingly erratic and worrisome. My dad died when I was 4, mom remarried SD when I was 15. I welcomed the marriage because my mom had been alone the bulk of my childhood. Stepdad has always been a bit difficult. He has bipolar disorder and has been on and off medication for it since I met him. My mom originally had some old-school views on mental health. E.g., medication isn't necessary and needing it was a character flaw. She's since come around on that. Early on, SD treated me more like a peer, confiding petty work concerns and stuff to me. It didn't bother me then because I was a pretty mature kid. I thought we had a fairly good relationship. He could be brusque and rude to others, but I always saw past that because I knew the heart underneath. I should mention that during the Trump years, our conversations became more and more contentious. I would try to avoid the topic of politics, but he would often not let it go. If I would try to shut it down or stand up to his bullying, he would yell. More than once, I left a conversation with him when he raised his voice to me or otherwise went over the line. I always tried to do it respectfully, but I'm sure there were times when I was not. However, these never devolved into name-calling arguments or anything. Fast forward to now. Both he and my mom are now retired. He went on disability after having an incident at work with a colleague. He's been under the regular care of a psychiatrist who manages his meds, but he's been increasingly isolated since then. Basically, since retiring, he's been at home, in his easy chair, watching Fox News, though this has abated a bit lately, and binging television shows. He doesn't leave the house unless he has a doctor's appointment, does not seem to be very active around the house or with hobbies. Basically, if he's awake, he's in the chair in front of the TV. My mother retired during COVID and would come and stay with me at my home about 90 minutes away 3 nights a week, helping my kids, 20M and 16F, with school while I worked from home. 3 years ago, I got remarried and moved back to town. Son went to college, daughter started HS, and mom took a part-time job managing a small church-based thrift store. She is also very involved with her church. My SD complains that my mom is always going somewhere, never wants to be at home with him. She has never been comfortable being idle, does not do leisure or relaxation very well, never has. But she does often look for reasons to be away from home. I can't say I blame her. I've witnessed my stepdad interrupting her, talking over her, calling her names like Badger when she does something he doesn't like. His tone is often extremely sharp, angry, loud, and just ugly to her. But his aggression is not limited to just my mom. On occasion, my husband, 52M, and I have hosted my parents for dinner. He often monopolizes the conversation, talking over my husband and my mom. He also tends to get on a roll about inappropriate topics. A long, detailed monologue about the drugs he did when he was a teenager is a recent example, in front of my stepson, 10M. The last evening we hosted them ended abruptly when, while watching a football game, I mentioned that I liked one of the players who was playing in the game. He became angry, and stormed out saying you can never agree with me about anything. Apparently, the team I mentioned was the one he didn't like. I had no clue. All this is annoying, but I'm starting to worry because this behavior seems to be ramping up in frequency and aggression. Tonight, when there was some confusion over who paid for a fundraiser item my daughter was delivering to them, he actually threw the item, heavy, frozen loaves of bread, across the room toward where my mom was standing. We all stopped and looked at him. I said, "Did you just throw that at Mom? How old are you?" He immediately walked back his behavior and tried to re-engage in the conversation around another topic, but we were all shaken. My mom is from this stand-by-your-man generation, and basically took it for the last 30-some years, but I can see it's taking a toll on her. For my part, I'm worried about my mom's safety. She seems to think he's a toothless old bear, but I am not convinced. While I do think much of his behavior is attention-seeking, my mom is not one to stand up to him or confront. Or to give him the validation he is desperately seeking. Don't get me started on that. I'm wondering what, if anything, I can or should do. My husband is to the point where he doesn't want his son around my SD when he's behaving erratically. SD is a veteran, so my husband suggested maybe reaching out to the VA. SD does have a son, 39M, but they are not close, though I could reach out to him as well. To be clear, I love him. He's been the closest thing I've had to a dad, but I'm tired of being held hostage by his moods and his erratic behavior. And I cannot stand by and let someone hurt my mama. Advice and ideas are welcomed. My 48F husband, 52M, said I act old and boring. I know I do, so maybe we aren't compatible? Married 15 years. He went back to school for a grueling program. One thing about him is he is incredibly driven. He constantly has goals. He's certainly not a rest on your laurels type. I'm much more laid back. We are polar opposites in this area. I definitely try to help him a lot, but also I find his ambition a bit exhausting at times. He's always chasing something, and it always takes a lot of work. And once it has been achieved, he never just enjoys it, it's on to the next project. It's been this way forever. I have, I think, some resentment towards this constant more attitude he has. Mainly because I'm definitely not like that at all. I'm happy with where I am. Meanwhile, he's always said to me, but why wouldn't you want to be more? The best there is? I don't know why, but I just don't care at all about that. As long as I'm happy and have enough, I don't need to constantly strive for more. When he decided to go back to school, I was apprehensive because I knew it would be an exhausting, difficult 2 years, but since he was determined I was supportive. He is very nocturnal, while I am the exact opposite and have to be in bed by 11 p.m., so he has often stayed up until 3 a.m. studying. Tonight he wrote his final exam for this semester. He contacted me at 10 p.m. when he was done. I had already had a bath, was in my pajamas and in bed. He wanted me to come meet him, 25-minute drive, and drink and go play pool until it closes, 2 a.m. There was no prior warning that he wanted to do this. I've been so tired lately, need to look into that, and I said no. I didn't have the energy. He got frustrated with me and said I always act old and boring, never want to do anything spontaneous, always have to be in bed early. He's right, I guess. I am feeling kind of guilty. Is it just a case of being incompatible, or should I really try harder to make more of an effort? Me 34F got in a disagreement with my BF 38M about shaving before I come to visit. Basically, we were on the phone and I said I can't wait to have sexy time this weekend, we are long distance for about 2 months. He said he was excited for it too, and was like you should shave your before you come visit me. I said it stresses me out when you say that, and he cut me off before I could say because and finish my sentence. He was upset and wanted to get off the phone. He completely shut down. I said please don't shut down on me, this doesn't have to become something, and explained that the way he said it made me feel self-conscious, like he didn't like it on Saturday when he visited. He was like, why do you think I meant that when I was trying to be cute and sexy with you? To him, he was trying to be sexy by implying he wanted me to sit on his face. I tried to say how would you feel if the situation was reversed, and I said it this way to you, but he said he would get excited thinking about what it implied. Long story short, his feelings were hurt. I was self-conscious instead of thinking about him eating me out. And that he wanted to go, so I said okay this time. But this is the second time he's mentioned it over the last week. I don't like to shave it bald or too crazy short because it hurts when the hair grows back and I get folliculitis easily. But I've told him before that if he wants to pay for a wax, I'll get that done. And I do keep it trimmed. We have been together for 6 years. And reading the comments, I know everyone seems to say red flag, but he is an awesome guy. It hasn't been 6 years of this. I want to call him and talk with him about this. But I'm not sure how I should approach the situation. Any advice on how to approach this in a way that helps him understand my POV? I, 35F, think my partner, 33M, might be doing an Alan Rickman in Love Actually on me. What to do? Okay, bear with me. Me, 35F, and partner, 33M, together 12 years, kids, house, etc. Things have been off this year, I thought because we had another baby, and just getting through a tough pregnancy and those tough first months, but now feeling like there's more to it on his part. I found a receipt for a jeweler. See where this is going? He has only bought me jeweler on 3 occasions, and this item is not something I would choose for myself. Immediately alarm bells went off. There is nobody friends/family he would have bought it for, so I checked our shared bank account. It appears he has used a pay-in-4 service to purchase the items, so can't see where the purchase was made in the transaction, but the amounts equal same. It's not unusual for us to do pay-in-4 when buying gifts for each other, so it's a surprise. I feel sick. Should I confront him now and ask who the gold is for, or give him the benefit of the doubt and see if this is what I unwrap on Christmas Day? I'm already having visions of crying to Joni Mitchell. Update: I've decided to sit on it and see what Christmas brings. I took a photo of the receipt when I found it and looked up the item online. I also had a snoop around the house, and it's either hidden well or not here. I'm hoping it's just some silly thing I'll look back on and go, girl, you're crazy, but I can't help but feel uneasy about it. We'll keep you updated.